There we go.
We are now on air live. It says, hey, this is Tom, the Beer Whisperer, in my virtual Beer Whisperer pub here. This is a Sunday. I'm working on 2 Urban Chestnut beers that I did videos for, so I'm going to finish them off for this virtual pub session. I've got the Shoto Joe Coffee Stout brewed with coffee, Caldi's coffee. So Urban Chestnut's one of my favorite breweries out of St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm going to finish it up first. I probably got about half a beer of this 500 milliliter bottle. Put that there, show you the bottle. And here's the glass. That pours very nicely, as you can see. As that rich kind of tan or mocha color head there going on. So what are you drinking, John? I'm joined by John Sherron out there at Zone 1. So, John, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm bringing another one of these fantastic beers from Wisconsin. This is, I don't know if you've ever had this one or not. It's New Glarus Spotted Cow.
No, that one I haven't had before.
But, I mean, I've had about everything they've had, and I believe they now come out with a coffee one that I've not had, and I'm going to try to get that one. But I really enjoy these. I've got some friends that live here in the neighborhood that are from Wisconsin, and they go up there a couple times a year, and they always bring me just a barrel load of these New Glarus beers back. And I thank them so much for doing that because I've never had a bad beer from New Glarus.
Yeah, I've only had a couple or 3 from trying to think what I did have. And one is Totally Naked, I think was called.
Totally Naked. That's the one we drank the other night on here.
Yeah, Charles with you.
Yeah.
That was nice talking with you and Charles again. Yeah. It's been a couple years.
Mm-hmm. But let me read the description on the bottle a little bit about this one here.
All right, go ahead.
This is a cast conditioned ale. Has been the popular choice among the beers since long before Prohibition. We continue this spirit with the ale, with our Wisconsin farmhouse ale. It's brewed with flaked barley and the finest Wisconsin malts. So this is all basically about all their beers that they make are locally. Everything goes into these beers from Wisconsin. So.
Well, that's good. One of my favorite breweries in Arkansas is Springdale, Saddlebach. They do similar. They integrate, typically considered not a good adjunct, but the way they do it works. They integrate some organic, locally grown corn grits and rice into a couple of their different styles.
But I mean, everything from these people are from that region of the United States, and it just, to me, it makes for a better beer. It makes for a more enjoyable beer. I mean, it's bragging rights saying that what you're doing in your area is bringing them back to the community because you're buying everything from that community. So.
And you know what? That's what's important. You and I have had this agreement or disagreement from time to time about macro versus micro.
Yeah.
And the argument being, well, if they're still brewing a good beer, doesn't matter. Well, you just answered that question for me. That's why it matters, because they're buying ingredients, they're supporting the community, and when you support that brewery, you not only support the brewery, but you support those other endeavors.
Yeah, you're supporting the whole community. But and you bring up a good point.
That's why it matters.
And me and you've argued back and forth on many occasions on a lot of different things, but and you see a lot of things I post on my group, but I mean you gotta look at the fact. I mean, a lot of these craft breweries now, they're buying into this concept. If they can make a good beer and they can make a beer that's going to sell, it's like a lottery ticket to them. They're going to try to sell to one of the big 3.
Well, I don't actually know. I don't believe that. I think there definitely are some that might start with that built to sell attitude. Yeah. But I don't think that's the game plan for most of them. And I've talked to too many brewers and too many brewery owners to believe that. Yeah. I do believe that there are some that have been started with the whole idea of selling. And you can kind of see those when they pop up because because they start out a certain way or they advertise a certain way. But
Yeah.
I think you're wrong for the most part. I think that attitude would be the same as if you're starting a local burger joint, you're looking at somebody buying you out. Just because craft beer is trendy right now. There's no doubt about it, and that trend will end at some point. But there's still going to be a large core group that are still here. Just like, I mean, there was a boom in the mid '90s, and it bottomed out.
Yeah.
And then it came back about '05 where it started growing again,
Yeah.
and it's continued to grow. I mean, at some point, I figure that the folks that are drinking it for the trend will move on. But but every time that bottoms out and comes back and gets trendy, the core group gets larger. So I don't know if there's enough to sustain the amount of craft breweries that are out there, but I think the good ones are going to last. But the thought that many of them are starting, or the greater portion of craft breweries are starting with the idea of getting a golden ticket, I think that's utterly false.
Okay. Well, that may be true, but I mean, you see a lot of them selling out here lately, which is kind of scary. A lot of your big ones are selling out.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, I mean, Miller Coors and AB InBev tried to, or SAB Miller, I guess, whatever they're called themselves these days. They're all trying to merge. I didn't hear if that had gone through or not. Have you?
No, I haven't really 100% yet, and I don't know if it ever will. I mean, it's too much monopoly on the world beer.
It would be a very large monopoly, yeah, and because of that, I give a lot of these small craft breweries credit for doing what they do. I mean, it's like your local mom and pop restaurant, your local mom and pop grocery store, your local mom and pop even fast food joints. I mean, the idea that all of these guys are the only reason they're opening up is that they can eventually sell. I don't think it's true, because I've talked to too many that are really in it for the love of the beer. Now, I'm not saying some of them aren't in it for the money. But I think most of them that pop these craft breweries out are doing it for the love of the craft.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Not and I agree with you 100% on that. Not all of them are, but some of them's trying to cash in that ticket.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the beast, though. I mean, but you can't say, well, that's the craft beer industry.
No, it's not. It's not in the whole of the craft beer industry.
I think there are a few, and I think some of them that sold maybe didn't start with the intention of selling. It just became that. I know. We're talking various industries. I know I read an article not long ago about the banking industry. That local banks will get so big, and that's when they're ripe to sell. And I think the same thing is happening with craft beer. As soon as some of these reach a certain point, then that's when they get on the radar. Ballast Point, for instance. I mean, I think Ballast Point was probably the last craft brewery that most people thought would ever sell to a big guy. And there it is. I mean, that was one of the real darling craft breweries, and now it's part of a big chain. Now the plus to that is that it's now being distributed in markets that it wasn't before. For instance, I couldn't get it in my market before the buyout. Now I can. Now the possible drawback, it hasn't happened yet, and it may never, but the possible drawbacks when this happens is in many cases quality declines and or creativity declines.
Yeah, and I agree with you a lot on that. And like in Louisville here, we could never get it till the buyout. Now the buyout come, and now we can get it here. And Louisville, we had to drive an hour, 2 hours basically to Cincinnati. We wanted Ballast Point. Now we can get it here in Kentucky. So
before I run out of beer, I want to tell you a little bit about this coffee stout out of St. Louis. I mean, it uses, again, you were talking about New Glarus there and how they use local products. Well, this coffee stout out of Urban Chestnut in St. Louis, they use a local St. Louis coffee, Caldy's coffee. Now, the aroma is interesting because there's a whole lot of chocolate mixed in with that coffee on the aroma, almost like a mocha-like aroma. Now, the flavor is almost all coffee with just a small hint of chocolate, but there is a lot of chocolate on the nose that makes it a very interesting coffee stout. And the body on it is lighter than most coffee stouts, but it's not watery in any way. It's about the consistency, I would say, of your typical Schwarzbier. So it makes it for a very easy drink and an approachable coffee stout.
But this Spotted Cow, I mean, it's just a phenomenal beer. I mean, it's got all the hints of greatness in it. I mean, you can see it. I mean, no settlement. It's just an awesome beer. But
well, I mean, having sediment isn't necessarily a bad thing either. A lot of great quality beers, especially a cask conditioned ale, it's not unusual to see a little sediment.
No. But we got the right. You know, you've been the New Albanian Brewing Company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right across the road, they just opened up a new brewery called Donham Day. Well,
wow.
They're doing some phenomenal stuff there. I mean, some real good beers. I mean, when they started out, their beers were a little watery, and they keep getting better as they go along. But I asked the brewer there here not too long ago. I said, "How come you're not at all these beer festivals and you're not doing this, you're not doing that?" I said, "I'm not that I really care. I mean, because you're putting out a good beer, but I'm just wondering." He goes, "I don't have to, because everything I got is paid for. I'm putting out a pretty decent product, and I don't need social media to. I don't need to post in social media because I got people like you that are posting on social media about how good our beers are, and people like you are the ones that's getting people in my place."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could fault that attitude. I mean, it almost seems a tad short-sighted, but yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you don't have to advertise, why? But yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Social media certainly doesn't help, or doesn't hurt, rather.
Yeah. But I mean, Tom, I've known you a long time. We've done a lot of stuff together over several years, but I mean, social media is what's built the craft beer industry almost in a whole.
Yeah, I don't know what the percentage, but yeah, I gotta agree. It certainly has helped. I mean, because of social media, I've met people like yourself that I wouldn't have met otherwise. If this medium didn't exist, we would have never met.
Yeah.
And because we have met, I've been able to try beers from your neighborhood that you wouldn't have been able, that I would have been able to get before.
Yeah.
To get beers to you from my neighborhood. So yeah, I mean, it certainly has opened up. I mean, I've learned. Oh gosh, I met yourself and a few. I mean, Stuart Picard from England. I mean, there's just a lot of folks that I met that if this medium didn't exist, I wouldn't have been able to try those beers or talk about them on social media.
Yeah,
I agree. Social media has a big impact, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you got Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all these other groups and everything. That I mean, that to me that's really kept it going, and I hope it keeps it going.
Yeah, I gotta say that's probably one thing that has helped the boom. Well, to keep going. I mean, whereas, like I said, there was a big boom in the '90s. Brew pubs, probably brew pubs more specific than actual craft breweries, but brew pubs were popping up all over the place, and then it kind of crashed. It seemed like the interest had peaked, but social media wasn't as prevalent back in '95 as it is in 2015. I think that's why, from the period of 2005 to now 2016, I guess. That I think that is part of the reason why it's kept growing.
Yeah, I agree with you a whole lot. Then, I mean, you're seeing stuff on social media that you wouldn't have seen back. It's like me and Charles was down there always sitting around kicking around some beers and talking about stuff. Back during your childhood, would you like to have a camera phone back when you was a kid?
I don't know. It's kind of a yes and no. It's like Facebook. I mean, I get that there are some upsides to it, but the things I did back in the '80s, the mid '80s to the mid '90s. I mean, I'm glad that stuff couldn't have been captured.
Yeah, probably so. Now you think about this. I mean, you
the hairstyles and the clothes, and I mean, I grew up in the mid '80s in Southern California, so yeah. I mean, unless somebody has a rare picture, you're not, the pictures of me in a very long mullet aren't floating around.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny the things that you think about now, man. If you just had a camera phone back when you was a kid, I mean, it's just crazy how much things evolve. From back. I mean, you think about it, the '80s wasn't that far back to right now. I mean, how much things have evolved since then. To think about what we're talking about in 2016. I mean, there was very few craft breweries back then. I mean, I've still got bottles from when I lived in Salem, Indiana. I mean, we had the very first craft beer back in the early '90s. I mean, I've still got that bottle. I mean, you're sitting there going, what's this stuff? Because I mean, here's this guy pouring out bottles of beer out of a freaking a garage. Out of a garage in his house. I mean, he had a full brewery making beers. I mean, it's just crazy how much things have evolved since then.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
You know, now you're looking at mega freaking breweries. I mean, popping up on every corner. It's kind of like Germany, I guess. You know, I mean, take a look at Germany. I mean, there's every neighborhood's got its own tavern, I guess, or brewery.
Well, I've never been there, but yeah, I've heard stories. You know, at St. Louis, Missouri is a lot like that. I'm going to show you that Urban Chestnut bottle here for the Kowtow cocoa milk stout.
Yeah.
As I pour it, let me show you the beer. Yeah, I mean, St. Louis is like that. St. Louis is an interesting town because there's a lot of neighborhoods that comprise it. So you have a lot of these neighborhoods, there's a craft brewery tucked in it. Up in the Grove, you've got Urban Chestnut. Midtown, you have Urban Chestnut second location. You know, downtown, you've got Four Hands and Perennial and Alpha and a few others. And then I can't remember the part of town now that Civil Life is in, but where it's located, it's mostly industrial around it. Then there's some houses not far. So it's almost set up like a neighborhood brewery.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't even think they're trying that hard to get out of St. Louis. I think they've got a nice neighborhood niche, and I think for now they're sticking with it. And I think a lot of craft breweries are doing that. They're not necessarily trying to be the big guy on the block. They're trying to have this successful formula that works for them right now in their neighborhood. So that's again the notion that every craft brewery is looking for a golden ticket. I don't think that's true.
But I mean, that's what I'm seeing around here. I mean, you've got all these little breweries popping up, not big breweries, but small breweries popping up that's putting out some freaking pretty delicious hamburgers, steaks, and food. I mean, they've got their niche in that neighborhood. And, you know, like me, I mean, like I'm 10 minutes from Red Yeti. I'm 10 minutes from Flat 12. I mean, I'm 15 minutes from about 15 breweries around here, but they've all got their niche. And if you go there at 7, 8 o'clock at night, they're freaking packed.
Yeah.
Because they've all got that niche of this one certain beer. I mean, a hamburger or some other kind of offbeat food that, I mean, truffle fries or trout tacos or something, or some kind of a pizza that they're all got that niche. And I mean, it's just phenomenal what's going on around here.
Yeah, and if you remember back in the late 80s up into the early 90s, I was talking about brew pubs. When they first started popping up, almost all of them were just basic burger and fries.
Yeah.
And now you are seeing more eclectic cuisine or even more fine dining coming out of brew pubs.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you're talking about your truffle fries and your trout tacos and your gourmet burgers that are $20, $30 a freaking burger to buy a $7 craft beer.
Well, you know, what they're doing is capitalizing on two trends. You know, the food trend and the beer trend.
Yeah.
And as long as that works, I don't know if both are going to work at the same time forever, but as long as it's working, go with it. I think the problem with stuff like that is what works about is right now it's trendy, but at some point maybe trout tacos won't be trendy. I think these places have to be willing to move with the trend, whatever that food trend is, if that's what they're doing.
And you know, right now, bacon, hamburgers, and tacos are trending. So that's what everybody's going with.
Yeah, gourmet tacos are big right now. Any kind of specialty burger, if you're doing Kobe beef or anything different with a burger, is very trendy. Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Bison burgers, Wagyu beef burgers, all that stuff. I mean, it's really
Kobe, Wagyu, bison. Yeah.
It's just over the top right now. And you know a lot of these little local pubs that's popping up here, they're putting out some pretty good beers. I mean, they're not phenomenal beers, they're not over the top beers, but they're growing. They're finding their niche in the market, and they're building on that.
Well, you know, when Mother's first opened up, they actually opened up larger than a lot of craft breweries. some, but they didn't open up tiny. But initially they were only doing 4 styles of beer. I believe it was 3 or 4. They can correct me if I'm wrong. But now you walk into their tap room and they're only bottling so many styles. But
Yeah.
if you go to their tap room, you know there's 10, 12, 14. There's just a lot going on that they brew just for the tap room.
Yeah. And that's what I enjoy about going to a lot of these little local breweries. I mean, I want to walk into a local brewery. I want to drink their beers. I don't want to walk into one of these little local breweries and see, I mean, a lot of people may be wrong, but I mean, I want to drink their beers. I don't want to see guest taps. I want to try their beers. I don't want to think, oh, well, I've had that. That's a phenomenal beer. I don't want to try somebody else's beer.
A lot of them are doing 1 or 2 guest taps. I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, but I agree with you. If I go to a specific brewery, I'm trying their beer. Now, if I'm there for a while, or if I'm there all day and I can get to that guest tap, I will. Especially if for instance I'm traveling and I'm not going to be able to get to that brewery, I'll try that guest tap.
Yeah, yeah. But most of the beers right here, I mean, like New Albanian, for instance, they got a lot of guest taps on. Plus, they got a lot of their good beers on too. But
yeah, I remember they had some Three Floyds tap when we were there.
Yeah, they tend to have a lot of Three Floyds on tap. But hey, they're getting ready to have their big Gravity Head week in February. I mean, which is a big week, and they're having a lot of stone beers. Hard to get stone beers that most people will never be able to get on draft. So,
well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, it's interesting that a lot of breweries are doing that too. They will have certain beers that only go to keg.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Gravity Head at New Albania is huge. I mean, there's people from all over come. I mean, it's like a whole week thing. And we go every year. We've been going since, the late 80s. And I mean, we really enjoy it. There's there's just the beer craze right now here in Southern Indiana where we live, and you've been here at my house, and Louisville just blowing up right now.
Yeah, and that was about 3 years ago when I was out there. Yeah, and it's the same in my neck of the woods. There's just new breweries popping up every day. So I don't think the boom is done yet. I mean, At some point it does have to, and it does have to crash because that's the nature of anything. But I don't think it's done yet. No.
No. I don't think it's near done yet. But I mean, especially in my neck of the woods, I mean, we got a new brewery. It's been here for a couple of years. It's called Flat 12.
Mm-hmm.
They come out of Indianapolis. They built one on the river. I mean, they're getting ready to start barrel aging down here now next month. But they make some phenomenal barrel aged beers. I mean,
the only thing I've had from them so far is the half cycle. That one was pretty special.
But I'm gonna tell you what. I mean, the beers they're making on draft and bourbon barrels, and they make some in rum barrels and other barrels, but are just phenomenal. I mean, they're just. To me, I mean, our area right here speaks of bourbon. I mean, and there's so much bourbon going on. And there's some breweries that's doing it and not doing a very good job of it. But there's other breweries like Flat 12 and stuff, Against the Grain, and some other breweries that are just putting it over the top right now. You're just not going to go wrong with them.
No, I agree. I mean, you are in a bourbon neck of the woods, so yeah. I mean, that is really something a brewery in your neighborhood would want to capitalize on.
Yeah.
Before I ran out of beer, let me give you some notes on this milk stout here. Cocoa Cowtow. The nose is chocolate, but it's not heavy chocolate. You do get those cocoa notes. And you can also feel that little bit of sweetness from the lactose or milk sugar. And again, it's about the same body as the coffee stout. Again, about the same as your typical Schwartz beer. So for a stout, it's very drinkable, very approachable. I talk to folks that aren't quite into craft beer that won't drink anything called stout because they think it's heavy. But then I've given some folks a Schwartz beer, and then they like the coffee notes. Yeah. So if you like a beer like that, I mean, you could certainly jump to a beer like this. It's very approachable, very drinkable. The cocoa notes are there, but it's not overwhelming. And on the other one, the coffee stout, where you had mostly coffee and just a hint of chocolate, Well, this one is mostly cocoa with just a hint of coffee from the roasted malts going on in it. So
Yeah, that sounds like a good beer. But I mean, we went to a thing last night called Louisville on Tap, and I mean, basically what it had a lot of local breweries. They had a lot of breweries from across the United States, but it was more. I look at it as more of an introductory to craft beer for a lot of people that wasn't
mm-hmm.
big craft beer drinkers. But in my area back years ago, we had Fall City. You've had the Fall City that's
Mm-hmm.
recently come out. Now we've got Sterling. I don't know if you remember Sterling or not.
Yeah.
So Sterling just come out. Wiedemann was big back in the day. Now it's come back out. A lot of these breweries are buying up these old names and reintroducing them as craft beer, and they're pretty good. I mean, they're not bad, but I mean that's what they're like. A Sterling is being made by Upland. I don't know if you remember Upland out of Indianapolis.
Yeah, Upland. Yeah, I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
But a lot of these old names are coming back. So I mean, they're pretty good. I mean, in the day you think, God, these was nasty because you're paying like $5 for a case of beer. Now you're paying like $5 for one beer, and you're thinking, God, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
There is a market for nostalgia, and a lot of these folks are smart enough to know that.
Yeah, and and that's it. They're capitalizing on the nostalgia of Louisville and Evansville because that's where a lot of these beers was made and come out of. Like Fall City was, the old Miller beers and stuff like that. But back in the day when Sterling made Bach beers, which was unheard of back in the day, and I mean, all these other beers like that. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, the nostalgia, and now, like you said, it's nostalgia coming back. So, and people's
I mean, I talk about my dad who he grew up drinking Grain Belt, and then when he moved to California, became an Olympia drinker. Yeah. There are a lot of these those regional flavors, old style. You mentioned Wiedemann's. I mean, there is certainly a market for those old names.
Yeah, there is. I mean, but you still got Slits. I mean, it's still out on the market. The Strohs and, like you said, old style, which some pretty good beers. But I'm sure over the years that the recipes have changed, or maybe not. But they're still pretty good beers.
Well, I think my personal opinion is that yes, they have all changed because the brewing process has changed.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think ingredients have changed. I think the quality of ingredients have changed. I think a lot of these have gone to cost-cutting measures, and we've also had the introduction of brewing enzymes that speed up the process, and that changes the beer a little bit too.
Yeah.
Things that weren't done in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and even some into the 70s.
Yeah.
So I think if we could somehow time warp or magically have a time machine and go back to 1970, I think that 1975 Olympia is going to taste a lot better than the Olympia they're producing now, or the 1970 Schlitz. And I think that's the problem. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is that they say, well, it's the same beer. No, it's not the same beer.
No, it's not the same beer, and I agree 100% with you. The brewing process over the years have changed. The ingredients have changed. I mean, you're not going to get the same ingredients in 2016 that you got in 1970. I mean, it's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, I hate to mention names, but I'm going to. PBR, for instance, there was kind of a boom, kind of a hipster boom for PBR. And I hear people, oh, that's a good beer. No, it's not a good beer. That they employ a lot of corn syrup. It is a terrible, sickeningly sweet beer. I mean, if you like it, that's fine. I'm not going to hate on you for liking it, but you're not going to tell me it's a quality beer because it's not. They even admit that they use corn syrup, and I kind of doubt they even used a good quality corn syrup because it doesn't taste like it. It doesn't taste like a good beer. Don't try to tell me it's Tell me you like it because it has light flavor. Tell me you like it because it's sweet. But don't tell me it's a good beer because it's not.
Yeah, I mean, and you brought up a good point. I mean, with PBR, PBR's died out what 2 or 3 times, and every time somebody comes out with a movie of it, and it kind of regenerates itself.
Well, I mean, you've heard me use analogies before. I mean, listen, I don't care if you like sardines on a cracker, but don't tell me it's sushi.
Yeah.
Because it's not, don't tell me that sushi, don't tell me that sardine is sushi grade fish because it's not. And it's the same way with those macro beers. If that's what you like to drink, I don't give a rat's ass. But don't jump on social media and don't do videos and don't do reviews telling me it's a great quality beer and everybody ought to love it because it's not.
Yeah. I mean, some people like those, some people don't.
And there's nothing wrong with liking them. See, that's the thing. There's nothing wrong if that's what you like.
Yeah.
But you can't jump on, you can't do a video and say that's an A+ beer because it's not. It's not. I can't do a video with a cracker and a sardine and tell you this is grade A fish because it's not. I mean, there has to be some realism going on here. I mean, you got to tell the truth at some point. You can't blow smoke up somebody's keister, and then and tell them it's magic because it's not.
But and you brought up a good point. The PBR you're drinking now is not the PBR you drank.
No. I don't think it is either. No. And again, and the problem is you and I don't have that magic time machine to go back. No. We don't have those recipes. But no, I don't think it is. No, hey, we're coming on about 30 minutes, so I'm going to end this session because I just ran out of beer.
Okay.
But if you want to have another beer, I'm game for another session. But we're going to end this one. I'm Tom the Beer Whisperer, joined by John Sherron from Zone 1 with some spirited conversation. We'll talk to y'all later. Say bye, John.
Bye.